Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Touché Amoré album, Is Survived By. These guys are a rock outfit. This is their third full-length album, and sonically, they're sort of purveying sounds from the worlds of post-hardcore, SCREAMO, with very strong lyrical narratives, as well as maybe a little melodic hardcore. Their last album, Parting the Sea Between Brightness and Me, I did enjoy quite a bit. I thought there were some strong tracks on there, but maybe I had some issues with a little bit of the melodrama. Maybe I thought that the instrumentals weren't so diverse. But to just kind of get straight into the point with this review, I'm actually finding a little bit more to like on this new album of theirs. Now, at their core on this record, Touché is still the same kind of band that you've known them to be for the last two albums, kind of still hanging in the same stylistic realms. You've got that punk ferocity and aggression coming from the speed and just the intensity with which the instrumentation is played. You've got incredibly emotional lyrics that are just delivered in this really dramatic, over-the-top, and of course screamed way. They read more like a story if you get them down onto a piece of paper, and they're delivered in a way that feels more like spoken word than anything. Of course, the guitars on this album are written to be really melodic and captivating, very anthemic. And to me, this record feels like these guys are starting to step toward making music in this style that is sort of big and bold by asking some bigger questions in the lyrics and by writing tracks that feel a little more multifaceted. The first two tracks that kick this album off are pretty interconnected, segueing musically toward the beginning and end of the songs. And they're really moving, they're passionate. And this album opens up with Just Exist, a question sort of asking, what do you want to be remembered for? What's your legacy going to be? Do you want to have a legacy? But ultimately, the song, in a really sad way, is kind of self-defeating, realizing that there's so much in life to consider and worry about and just sort of rack your brain over. On top of it, I have to swallow this concept of mortality and that my death will eventually come. How can I even worry about how I'm going to be remembered after it? The ending lyric on this track is fantastic too. I'll just bow my head and leave out the back. The next track on here kind of continues with that theme of fame and success and legacy by talking about the humble beginnings of the band, and now they're sort of here at their third album. The question of whether or not it will be a success is kind of brought to the table. And it's interesting to hear not only this band, but a band in this style of music get so meta with what they do and how they feel about what they do and what the future is in it for them. You get some lyrics on this track talking about not wanting to pretend to be passionate, not wanting to pretend to be putting these feelings forward, going further down that road, talking about how putting everything that ails you out there for everyone to see and sort of take in and obsess over gives you a pretty penny. Whether or not that is stated with a tongue-in-cheek is for you to decide, I think. But there's a lyric on this track talking about how they capitalize on your blood, and I'm not really sure who they are, but they're obviously referencing money being made off of what the band does, so I'm guessing what labels, record factories, just record stores, venues, people who book. The next two tracks on this LP seem to be interconnected too musically, thematically, title-wise too. Praise/love, anyone/anything. And it continues to deliver lyrics that talk about being admired and sort of looked at under this microscope that comes with the fame of being a very notable band in this niche of a genre. And of course, we are delivered more anthemic guitars that are just pounding and just blood pumping and so life-affirming that appear around the 30-second mark on this track that get me really freaking excited. And I feel like there is this refrain on the song that really sort of states toward the end of the track what this entertainer-entertained relationship is. Like, I don't owe you anything, you don't owe me anything, you're enjoying our music, you're buying our music, it doesn't really function beyond that. We get more really climactic guitars, especially toward the end of the track DNA, and lyrically we are delivered this story just about being connected to this person who is your father and kind of seeing his personality and his quirks kind of play out in you. And there's this powerful lyric toward the end of this track that I think really kind of sums this up. Not only the fact that, you know, the things that your parents are a lot of the time are in you genetically, but there's also this desire to kind of evolve past that and break beyond that. This is what I need to bury the years of debris, to break the cycles of the cycles and stop living vicariously and start living for me. It's intensely heavy thoughts like this that are packed into such short songs on this album. This LP stands at a kind of average, teetering on brief 30 minutes. And yet we've got so much food for thought, and we're not even really at the halfway point of the LP yet. And the lyricism doesn't really lose steam into the second half of this LP either, especially since you have tracks on here like Blue Angels, which kind of addresses the issue of having these personal problems and then dealing with them, trying to escape from them via substance abuse. However, even though there are many instrumental bits on this album that I'm really impressed with, like the crushing guitars on the end of the track Harbor, and I really like a lot of the musical segues that kind of link one track to another on this album, making the whole LP seem really seamless and just together and holistic. I guess there are downsides on here that I'm seeing because I'm not really that into what the band might be doing instrumentally. Like the song Social Caterpillar, which isn't a bad tune, but has this ending that lasts an entire minute where you've just got these trudging chords that I think are shooting for something epic, but they just end up feeling a little underwhelming. Then there is Nonfiction, which starts off as one of the quieter and more somber and just kind of chilled out tracks on the album with these spacey, very melancholy and twangy guitar leads that feel like they are totally akin, just dead ringers for some early Modest Mouse stuff. And as the guitars build and get more intense as the song continues on, it just kind of feels like a little bit of post-rock, a little bit of okay post-rock. And while I did like the track Steps, the really clean vocals that kind of hang in the background toward the end of the track, it didn't really do anything for me. They really felt a little too clean and flat and robotic in comparison with the really intense vocals that we're getting for the duration of this album. This LP did end really strong though with the track Is Survived By, which really is kind of the answer to the beginning of the album and this question, or at least somewhat of an answer or a bit of a response to the question of legacy and fame. And in a way, we're kind of starting this album off worried and sort of not knowing what the future holds, and then it feels like this album ends off knowing that the answer, in a way, is music, saying that sing a song that people will sing along to, that way when you're gone, they'll never forget you. It feels really triumphant. It feels, again, just like another amazingly life-affirming moment that this album holds. Overall, not a bad album. There are some tracks that, in my opinion, pale in comparison to others, and on top of it, I do think that there is more room for ambition in Touché Amoré's songwriting process, but I was pretty impressed by the themes that they dealt out on this album and how just passionately they stuck to them. If SCREAMO is your drug of choice, if just wordy rock is your drug of choice, if melodic but intense punk music is your drug of choice, then there is no reason that this shouldn't be a highlight for you this year. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this thing. But if you've given this Touché Amoré album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano. Oh, and also new Maker music video review episode. Just click on my face. Anthony Fantano is survived by Touché, Touché, Touché forever.